Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. Max and Dave are here. We need to go into the possibility of European football, which seems idiotic to be saying that this season. But 7th is still possible. It's still very much mathematically possible, despite the poor run of form. If a top 6 team wins the FA Cup, then 7th will have a Europa League spot. All right? But there's a lot of supporters, a lot of Everton supporters do not want Europa League. They think it'll hinder our season next year, especially in one in which we'll probably be rebuilding and probably have a new manager. Okay? So the other side of this is that Europa League could help us attract better players and a better manager, and the sooner we get used to playing European League football and Premier League football same season, the better. We need to figure out that at some point. So there's a couple of sides here, guys, and I don't think either side is really ridiculous one way or the other, because we're talking about sides that really want the best for the club. So where do you guys fall on this? Max, go.
A short answer, I don't understand how you could say no to European football in terms of revenue, exposure, the stage. I just couldn't turn it down. The amount of money that we did get off the Europa League for how poor of a campaign it was still quite a large amount. I'm just trying to go back in my memory. Then that you have the naysayers, the people who reject the notion of European football. They refer to the first season under Martinez, where we were knocking on the door of Champions League. Looked like we were going to get Champions League, but we bottled that in the end. And then people look at that following season where we had Europa League, yet we finished 11th. So there's two sides to the coin, but there's too much exposure and revenue to be made off Europe to say no to.
I agree with Max. I don't even think it's a debate for me personally. Yet your campaign becomes a little bit harder, but isn't that what you want? Look at all the elite clubs in the world. They all play in Europe. They play in the marquee competition in the Champions League. But any good side is playing European football year in, year out. That's a fact. Whether it be Champions League or Europa League, that's where you want to be. And right now, I think if Everton were at a stage where they were just qualifying for Europa League for the next 2 to 3 years comfortably, I'd probably take that whilst we work our way into hopefully pushing for the Champions League. But we seem to just have these darts of getting in and then a few years out and then back in. We need to become a team that starts consistently qualifying for Europe, because then you start becoming a European name. Like, how many teams do that within Europe, but you suddenly start taking a lot more of a keen interest because you've seen them in European fixtures? One for me personally, I know they've always been a big club, but Lyon. Now, I know they're having a good year, but I'm always watching out for Lyon. Atalanta the same. They come on your map, and I think that's what we need more at Everton to be doing. We need to be on the European map more. We need to be a consistent team within Europe, and then with that becomes the revenue. The chance at more silverware, more players as well. It is a lot more appealing for a player to come from the Premier League for a team who's also in Europe than if they're not. So I think it's a no-brainer for me.
I know the Europa League money is not a lot when you compare it to Champions League. It's nowhere close. Like, I remember I heard this argument 2 or 3 years ago where they were actually, showing you the money and how it boiled down, and it was not great. It didn't, and then they showed the teams that would qualify for Europa League and what their league position was that first season. The stats in the Premier League usually back that up. Usually a team, when they're in Europa League, does not have the best season that year. That is a common thing. I agree with you guys. I want Europa League. I remember that year. Was it the year we finished in 11th where we almost got that? What was it? There was an extra spot they would give to the team that had the fewest amount of yellow cards.
Fair play.
Fair play.
That was one of the best games I've ever been to. Got a bit in terms of the experience, but I remember that because it was West Ham as well. West Ham were competing for it as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I remember we picked up a yellow card and there was quite a few fans back celebrating it like it was a goal because they didn't want to get involved in it. But yeah, I 100% agree with you there. But sorry, just going back to your point, Gerry, in terms of this is what the point I was trying to make. Where there's all the best teams in Europe every year, so you need to start adapting now to the work that takes to be competing on these two fronts on a domestic and European level. And we want to be a good club, a great club. Then you need to do that year in, year out. So you can't. It's not even like but it's not like every year we're competing fantastically in the league anyway. It's great having that European distraction.
Yeah.
Especially, I know obviously it's a little bit of a further journey for you than it was, Gerry, but nothing beats a European away. Going away for a few days and different parts of the continent, watching Everton play football is just unbelievable experiences. And I want that every year. Every year I want that. So it's not up for debate for me.
Yeah, I honestly, if it's gonna mean more games for the team, I want it. I get agitated when there's like 2 weeks with like nothing. If it's like a break, a big long break, and you got a whole 1 week with nothing happening. I mean, I hate that. Like, and the worst is when you're out of FA Cup. Okay, all the other teams are playing. You're having to watch them on TV, and where are you? It's you can't. You don't really have as much of a stake in it. It sucks. It's not great. So more games. It means I get to watch the team more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at what Pochettino did at Spurs. When he got there, he got them. He ended up getting them Champions League, and they didn't perform in Champions League. They underperformed. They looked bad in Champions League, not the way they normally did, but they performed well in the league. This year, it seems like they've adapted to figure it out. They look phenomenal in Champions League. I would even say they're overperforming now in Champions League. The way they played against Madrid last round, it's ridiculous. And they came back and tied Juventus in Turin. That was
a result.
And
I mean, if you look at two teams going opposite ways, you've hit the nail on the head right there. Spurs have just kind of shot up. Say from an even keel, they've kind of went right up here, and we've just regressed almost. We've got to start looking at them as a bit of an inspiration, really. And
you get used to it. You eventually you figure it out. By
the way, I think the Europa League stocks really grew up. Like, this season, I was looking at the matchups, and there's some massive clubs there, and I thought it looks tasty this year, the competition. I think people were taking it serious.
No, we would have enjoyed Dortmund away if we would have managed to go in the group.
Wow. That would have been a great tie for us.
You know what's made Europa League way more impactful? The winner gets Champions League. Yeah, that has been all the difference, I think.
Great move. It was a fantastic move. You're spot on. I think that now it's something that people want to desperately win. United put all their eggs in one basket in terms of that last year. And we're talking one of the biggest clubs in the world. So
I'm betting Arsenal's doing the same thing this season, by the way.
Yeah, and Arsenal doing the same, because it's something that you want to win now. You don't look at it as well as the Mickey Mouse European Trophy. Teams are made up to win that trophy, and then to have the Champions League on top of it.
Yep.
It's a very appealing piece of silverware to win.
Yeah, I hate the disrespect that it tends to get, but I think I agree. Stock is going up, and I think with that and with more people watching, the money that Europa League teams get is going to gradually get higher.
Yeah.
The disparity between Champions League and Europa League, I think it will close that gap.
You'd probably win that, wouldn't you, say, over the FA Cup or League Cup, in my opinion, and I'd rather win that.
See, I would as an outsider, as somebody from America who hasn't been watching since birth. But then again, I wasn't sure how you guys would feel about it since you've been watching that since you could remember. You know what I mean? FA Cup, League Cup,
Yeah. And that's a fair point, and there's probably quite a few who would disagree. But if you look at the benefits, I think you win something on European stage. Like, we could probably tell you the last 5 people to win Europa League, but we couldn't tell you how, like, the top 5 domestic leagues who won their cup probably. Well, we might be able to name 1 or 2, but you'd struggle, wouldn't you? Whereas Europa League such on a bigger platform, and you get that Champions League. Whereas the domestic stuff, it's only Europa League again, isn't it? So
yeah, I got to be honest. Every single year, I'm angling and trying to figure out a way for us to get into Europa League, get some kind of additional football. That's all I'm thinking about. You know, for me, you get some additional football. There is some form of success to your season. You know,
definitely.
Especially, I mean, I feel like it's the only thing we can achieve now. You know what I mean?
It is. Yeah.
So, I mean, if something, and again, some people will be pulling against that to happen because they don't want Sam to stay. I just can't pull against us. I just can't. No. It's not in my nature to do that. So even though these people are doing it for the good of the club, they think they, and that's up to them. That's their deal. That's just not my thing, not my way. So that's the end of our Europa League or not segment. If you're liking our videos, please subscribe. Nearing 500 because of you, and that is awesome. Check out, make sure you're checking out Max's stuff on the Toffee Blues website. Check out David's stuff both on the Sportsman and the Toffee Blues website. All right. Also, they're avid tweeters. Check out that because give them good comments, thoughtful comments. That'll do a lot for you guys, I'm sure. So I guess that's it. We're gonna move on. So anyway, bye.